So, kicking things off with the Telegraph, Lewis.
This huge decisions to change Britain. And he listed the three major decisions which will have relatively little impact on the global and our own situation.
Right.
The first one is smoking is effectively to be banned for future generations with phased age limit, which is the New Zealand method, which is there'll be a time when someone who's 19 won't be able to smoke, but someone who's 20 will be able to smoke.
And then they'll just carry on rolling that up
to
the ages. So
forever.
Eventually you'll be a 48-year-old man hanging around at a newsagent hoping that a 50-year-old man will buy you some cigarettes.
Yeah, it'll be a proper police state.
Yeah.
Which is maybe the dream of what the powers that be want.
I mean, I feel slightly ambivalent on this. I've got to say, I would imagine, generally speaking, GB News, our audience of a libertarian bent, would think that adults can choose for themselves whether to smoke or not. But on the other hand, they've made it so ridiculously expensive. It's such a hostile environment for smokers now. It does feel like, should we just let the other shoe drop and ban it outright? Would that not make more sense? It's obviously teetering unsustainably on the edge of that, isn't it? What do you think, Nick?
Well, yeah, I almost don't like talking about this because I'll get hate online because I am more on the freedom side. And as I said to you before, Tolkien believed that pipe smoking was a moral good.
Yeah.
And I understand all that. But I personally hate smoking so much that I always say I'm a fascist on this one issue. But I'm not saying I would go with the ban. I'm just saying part of me is not as against it as I normally should be.
I know what you mean. And I have to say, as a stand-up comic as well, when they banned indoor smoking, the environment for performing in improved immeasurably. I mean, it had a little bit, maybe some of the atmosphere was missing, you know, the photogenic nature of the sort of jazz club vibe. But
eventually, over time, people would have banned smoking inside. They wouldn't have banned it. It wouldn't have been a law, but there would be, like, you go into a place where there's smoking and people wouldn't have visited.
I mean, occasionally, do you ever go, like, I remember, I think the last time for me was probably Abu Dhabi or something like that. Massive five-star hotel, huge marble desks and floor, and people smoking in there. It was almost like watching something really unsanitary, like some foul, primitive activity. Anyway,
and Nietzsche said,
I can't say I'm against it.
Nietzsche said, what is falling, we must push. But we don't need to push it because cigarette smoking is going down. When they make it illegal, it's going to come right back.
That is true.
And Nietzsche quote, it wasn't from you, Simon. I never saw that coming. That was incredible.
What about his... He didn't like drinking either, though, so I'm not sure how sound he was. What about A-levels?
A-levels will be replaced with exams that include mandatory English and maths. I'm going to have to give this to Nick, because Nick is the expert in the British
educational system.
Even though I've had...
It's like they're switching to an American system, majors and minors. That's roughly what they are, although that's a college thing rather than a... What do you think?
It's the one bit of the speech that I'd actually ignored, to be honest with you. I mean, I'm sure it's very important. I mean,
what he's trying to do, which I appreciate this in theory, but it's one of those endless, it's a myth of Sisyphus kind of scenario because you're constantly trying to work against human nature. But he wants to minimise the sort of difference in esteem and status between A-levels and what they currently call T-levels, which are more practical qualifications, like, it's similar to an apprenticeship. And I approve of that. But you will always struggle to convince people conceal that there is an academic gap between hard work and then learning how to use some tools.
The question is, can the government change this? And from what I know about this country, it's micromanaging the educational system. Let the schools decide what they want to do. Take the government out of it. And
you could go with that to an extent and say, I've been saying for a long time, voucher system for schools, teachers get some choice where they spend their vouchers. So every child you get $6,000 a year, you can spend it where you want. Some schools might offer A-levels, some might offer baccalaureate, as they call it, some might offer a more American system. Some might just say, we'll train your kid just generally, it'll be a liberal education.
Or something better, which is not take people's money and not give it out. How about that?
And not train kids are cool, just like have them
you know what? If they're not trained, they're not trained.
Yeah.
And somebody has to dig the ditches in this country without relying on imported labour.
What do you think, Nick?
Well, I think there's so much more to get onto in the speech. We haven't even touched HS2 yet, which is the big... It wasn't a big reveal because it already leaked, but that was the big part of the speech. And he said that every penny would be reinvested. So he said, I'm scrapping it, but 36 billion is going to the north in other types of investment. You could argue every penny would be the 100 billion that he was speculating would be wasted. But I think that's perfectly... most people seem to think HS2... I don't know about most people, many people think it was a mistake. So I don't think he's going to get in too much trouble for that. The big question for me is was this speech enough? They needed a kind of Hail Mary. I don't think it was that. It was decent. Sunak always comes across smart, nice, intelligent. He cares about fiscal responsibility. His wife gave him a great intro, which was nice to see. And
I mean, she features in all the photographs as well. She's obviously livened up the pictures.
It was interesting, but was it enough? That's my question, and I'm not quite sure it was. And Farage, as we know, has been dominating the conference. My big prediction, I'm the first person to say it, is that Farage will get into the Tories, he will become leader, and he'll win a general election. I've even given a date, 2029.
You're not the first person to say it in my hearing, but you may be on this show.
Number one.